Hey everybody, it's Grandma Cat, the FECO extractor from beautiful Washington State. Goodness, last week was shocking, amazing, surprising, all kinds of things. I certainly wasn't looking forward to meeting 50 of you, but I'm happy I did. And golly, it was such a busy time that I told folks early on that we would get a how-to dose video up so that I wouldn't have to explain it 50 times over here in the next couple of days. Well, busy days, and you may hear my dog Indy, that's Indiana Bones, playing in the background because I've delayed so long being so busy at getting a dosing video together that I need to just go and get this done now. So here we go. What do you do when you get these FECO drops? I mean, they come in little containers, little jars, little, let's see, here's another one that's the half-ounce size. These are the two that I keep on hand for me all the time. This guy stays in my handbag, or actually I carry a backpack, and this one just stays close to my bed. So, you know, FECO is super easy. Everyone thinks it's going to be super hard, and it can be if you get just an oral syringe of full extract cannabis oil, and someone tells you to use the size of a grain of rice. How many milligrams is that? I don't know. Even if I've tested, I can't tell because it's not able to be measured precisely. How big is your grain of rice? Personally, I like long grain dark rice, right? So I bet it's a little different than Mr. Ben's Instant. So I instead calibrate my meds to where they are 100 milligrams per milliliter. So just for a little bit of information, this oral syringe is 1 milliliter. So, and since it's been used and it's kind of solidified, you can't tell, but it actually has markings along the barrel here too, at 0.25, which is 25 milligrams, at 0.5, which is 50. And just happily, this one is warmed up, 1 drop is always 5 milligrams. 1 drop, just like that. Easy peasy. Once you get that body memory, 1 drop, okay? 5 milligrams. Now, 5 milligrams of what? Because, golly, I have sent out high CBG, high CBD, 1-to-1-to-1, the cancer killer, a variety of different preparations based on your needs and desires. So what can we always say about it? 1 drop is always 5 milligrams. Then you can look here on the side panel. This might be kind of hard to focus in. Let's see. No, I don't think it's going to pop up. But you can see plenty of them on my Facebook page. That is where it tells you per milliliter how many milligrams there is of each product, right? Now, 20 drops are in a milliliter. So whatever it says on the side panel, divide those results by 20 or by 2 and move that decimal place. We cover that in another video. and now you know how many milligrams you're getting. Okay, so let's just do some easy math first. If it's 5 milligrams and you've just gotten a high CBD or a high THC or a high CBG, that means it's going to be almost 5 milligrams of exclusively that cannabinoid, THC, CBD, CBG, whichever one is dominant, okay? But you'll notice, since I'm a full plant extractor, we don't reject any of the cannabinoids. We get what the whole plant brings us. I take it on myself to make certain that the strains are what brings us that dominance. And then we just use a little chemistry and calculation to make the rest happen, right? So if you have 1 drop of a high THC, 1 drop is going to be almost 5 milligrams. Currently, the batch I have, I believe, is 4.7 THC, and then that other 0.3 is some CBD, some CBC, some CBG, all of the rest of the cannabinoids, right? Okay, the same thing goes with a high CBD. It's a majority of the CBD. In the current CBD case, it is 4.25 milligrams of CBD in the 1 5 milligram dose. And the rest is the rest of those other cannabinoids. On the CBG, it's 4.55 milligrams per 1 drop, okay? So this is how, and we always start low, go slow. I can't say it enough. You can't take it back once you've ingested it, right? All we can do is try and work around it. So if you're using a high THC or a THC dominant formulation, 1 drop might just rock your world. 5 milligrams is half of the adult dosage in Washington State, our legal adult dosage, okay? But for many people, 5 milligrams is plenty to begin feeling it. And 10 milligrams will push them over the edge to a point where they have anxiety, paranoia, a desire to just fall asleep right here, right now. Any of the known side effects of cannabis, right? None of them will hurt you. None of them will depress your breathing. None of them will depress your heart rate. So you're not gonna die. You might convince yourself in your paranoid or anxious state that you will, but you will not. So that's a little bit about dosing. What do we do if we get a little bit too much? First off, drink a little bit of fluid. A little bit of fast sugar will help. The munchies are real, and one of the things that brings that high feeling down, if you have a cannabinoid that will give it to you, is to get some fast blood sugar effect, right? So I recommend fruit. If a hard candy is all you've got, I'm not a fan of the processed sugar, but go right ahead. A soda pop can do the same thing, or fruit juice. So try to choose healthy options, but if you're just uncomfortable, don't stay there. Go ahead and get rid of that feeling. The cannabinoids will do their work, whether you are feeling high or intoxicated or not. Okay, if you need more information about how to do that, I think it's in one of my other videos on dosing, quite an elaborate bit on how to take off that head effect. You can also reach out to me and I'll tell you at any time. But again, the worst thing that can happen is you'll take a nap, right? So we always start 1 drop, go low, go slow. Next dose after 4 hours, you can take 2 drops if you didn't feel anything this time. I guarantee you the cannabinoids are working on you whether you feel it or not. And, you know, for most of you who are coming for the medical concerns, a couple of you mentioned you wanted that good old intoxication feeling, and that's great too. THC is Mother Nature's mood elevator, and many of you have plenty of reasons to want to elevate your mood. So I don't judge, but if you get overdone a little bit, give me a shout. We can fix it. Okay? So a lot of dosing depends on what it is we're desiring to do. And when I'm thinking target dosing, right? So someone who's coming to cannabis just for wellness. I believe one of you has a long history of breast cancer and many females in your family, and you're trying proactively to work on this. 1 or 2 drops, even a day, is a plenty good preventative maintenance with cannabis to hopefully keep the cancer away. The type of maintenance that after someone has defeated cancer with cannabis, that we keep them on indefinitely, right? Cancer has a bad habit of coming back. Why would we deprive our body of this nutraceutical when it could be what keeps us healthy? So general wellness, 1 or 2 drops. Maybe you're a 3 or 4 kind of person. This is the type of thing too that for folks who are looking for a little bit of sleep regulation, 1 or 2 drops at night may be exactly what it takes to put you to sleep and to keep you asleep and have you waking refreshed in the morning. Now, if you have a chronic condition, I'll use my own self, for instance. I have rheumatoid arthritis. I have for 25 years. I'm one of the best managed people with rheumatoid arthritis you will ever get to meet. I take about 5 drops a day. I take them at different times of the day because I also use it to regulate my sleep at night, and I'm fighting a chronic back problem too. So I spread it out, but cannabis doesn't really care whether it's fighting my back problem or keeping me healthy with rheumatoid arthritis. The same cannabinoids do the same things. So those 25 milligrams, again, at 5 milligrams a drop, that's just 5 drops throughout the day. that tends to keep me on a nice, even level, right? So that's what we want to think of in terms of chronic condition dosing. And this is where I talk about your dose. I don't know what your dose is. I know what my dose is. But your dose is something that I say we're going to go on a cannabis journey. And I'm happy to take your hand and be your guide. I know an awful lot about the various cannabinoids and the various effects that they have, and I've made various recommendations to each of you. But that doesn't mean that we've drilled down on your dose. Some people are very intolerant of various cannabinoids. Some folks are very tolerant of them. One thing that we do know is the longer you take cannabis, the more tolerance you will gain. Not that you have to go to a higher number of drops to get the same effect, unless you're looking for the intoxication effect again. Because the cannabinoids will work whether you're intoxicated or not, okay? But to get to that place where your pain subsides or your anxiety subsides or you simply feel good and feel zen, right? You'll know when you get to that dose. And again, we start with one always. And if you're successful with one but feel like maybe you can get some more benefit, then we take 2 next time. You will know when you take too much or when the effect is no longer cumulative. That's your dose. That's where you stay. So what happens on a bad day? Then we do what we call stress dosing, right? We stress dose for all kinds of things. Patients who are going in for chemo today, we stress dose. Patients who are having a bad day with their chronic condition, like a bad RA day for me, I stress dose. What does that mean? It means I take my stress dose. In my case, I know 2 to 4 drops will get me through the most stressful of days. Okay, some of my cancer patients will take as many as 10 drops on a stressful day, and they know which cannabinoids to use. I tend to recommend that you use CBD when you're first getting started on your chemo day. So that's a little bit about general wellness and chronic conditions. Now, for folks who are fighting a cancer, it gets a little bit more involved. I'm certain many of you have heard of the 60 grams in 60 days protocol, or 60 grams in 90 days. Toss that out the window. There is no doctor out there who recommends this much. There is no science out there that recommends this much. Most grams of RSO, which first off, I don't make RSO, I make full extract cannabis oil, but the RSO treatment is the 60 grams in 90 days. The people who make RSO value the really big numbers, high potency. They don't value the whole plant. They want cannabinoids. And boy, are they happy if they get to the upper 80s and 90%. They'll dance on the head of a dime. That would be 800 or 900 milligrams you'd be taking. Even an average RSO is going to be 700 milligrams. Have you heard the old adage, sometimes more is just more, right? After I drink a whole glass of orange juice, more OJ is just more. It's not giving me, it's doubling, tripling, quadrupling my daily benefit of vitamin C. It doesn't really benefit me unless I have a specific reason to need that much OJ. The same is true with cannabis. And where most doctors who are cannabis competent tend to recommend is 200 milligrams nowadays. I came to that conclusion myself about 5 years ago, finding that among my patients, I saw no better survivability among those who were crushing a gram a day as compared with those who were consuming 200. And most of my patients could never get to that gram a day because in those days all we had was THC, and it's a wild psychedelic ride often at that high of a dose. So many never got to that point. Some only got to 100. I have one patient who stopped his brain cancer with 25 milligrams a day. It's safely encapsulated. It's not growing. It's not shrinking. It's not doing anything, and he's living a happy life. I call that a win. I don't call it a cure, but I call it living with a condition when he'd been put into hospice by his medical providers. So, Back to cannabis dosing, I tend to recommend that folks aim for 200 milligrams a day. But again, it's not a magic number. Now, we also have some wonderful news in the cancer world, and that is the research that is being done on the immune system is amazing. And now we have immunologics. Some of them are even custom immunologics derived specifically for you and your body. Okay, when these immunologics work on the same systems, recognizing the same issues as cannabis does. And we believe that there's a conflict. There's enough evidence to believe that cannabis at high doses, meaning 200 milligrams a day, is not called for and may even be counterproductive if someone is on something like Keytruda or one of the other immunologics, okay? So if you're on an immunologic, give me a call. We'll talk it out. We'll research if your new protocol is in fact an immunologic, and we will make certain that we reduce your cannabis during the time you are active with the immunologic. Typically they have a couple of week protocol where you're on it and then you're off for like 6 weeks. So we reduce the cannabis while you're on the immunologic, and the minute you quit taking it, we bring the cannabis right back up, and we stay on that 200 milligram or whatever your dose is until you're ready for your immunologic treatment again. If you have further questions about that, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to go over the protocol very carefully. We don't want cannabis to be crossways with anything that your doctor is providing. And it is important that we all stay in close contact with each other over this. We're learning an awful lot about the way cannabis interacts with other medicines now that people are not afraid to talk about it. Okay, and then what's the last and maybe most important category of dosing? I can't tell you how many questions I get about dosing pets. Now, dogs have twice as many CB1 receptors in their heads as you and I do, right? Ever wonder why a dog is so happy? I think it's because they got all these CB1 receptors. And that's the one that THC locks into to create intoxication. So with dogs, we must be super, super careful. We dose dogs at 0.2 milligrams. That's 0.2 milligrams per kilo. A kilo is 2.2 pounds. So if your dog is 45 pounds, like my little Indica is, then she is 20 kilos. 20 times 0.2 is 4 milligrams. That's a big walloping dose for my little Indy. Instead, I would start her at 2 milligrams. Again, no problem with going low and going slow. You can always increase next time. I will tell you, for a cancer fight, my previous companion, Lucy the Canadog, many of you watched her fight, and boy, if I haven't told you, vets were amazed at how we squeezed 23 months of life for her, good months of life for her, using cannabis and Chinese herbs. But for a dog, we would want to start at that 0.2 milligrams, which comes out, boy, I'm fouling this up, works out to the 4 milligrams on a 20 kilo dog. And I suggest that you start at 2. What will happen if a dog is overdosed is they won't die, but they will lapse into a deep stupor, much the same as if you had yourself a couple of grams of oil, right? And the danger is that they can't control their desire to throw up, right? And they throw up and they accidentally aspirate some of the emesis, the vomit, into their lungs, and that's what kills dogs and occasionally cats too that have had too much cannabis. So again, I always try to stay really flexible. If you ever have a question about dosing, ask me first. Don't, or start, with one drop that you're confident is the appropriate dose for yourself. Don't just go pedal to the metal. Sooner or later you'll be able to, but it's not needed at this point, and in fact it's contraindicated. Golly, this got to be 20 minutes worth of video super fast, and I had no intention of that happening, but you can see why I wanted to put this in video form. rather than telling each of you all of this information alone or individually. I'd be happy to follow up with any of you. Please write to me. Those of you who've got my phone number, you can text me. I will get right back to you just as quick as I can. I'm super excited that so many of you, again, like I say, about 30 of you have samples arriving today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. And I'm super excited for each of you. Please do stay in touch, stay well, and remember, we always go slow, we always go low, and there's always tomorrow where we can have another dose. This is Grandma Cat. You can follow me here on Facebook. You can follow me on YouTube. I am Grandma Cat Jeter. That's cat with a C, and Jeter with a Jeter. I look forward to talking with you more. Thanks so much, and welcome to all of you who are new. Welcome to the Canna family. Take care now. Be well.